Your Honor, I think this is outrageous. You're going forward without the prosecutor.
Yes, it's exactly what you just saw. Blake Lively's lawyer literally stormed out of court after some wild hidden bombshells got exposed.
Specifically told her on the phone not to cancel that appointment, that it wouldn't be a problem.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to be here for the decision, that's your business.
Like, girl wasn't even honest with the one person paid to lie for her. And now, with Ryan's name crawling into Diddy drama and Blake's courtroom stunt turning into an attempted murder headline, yeah, the lawyer noped out before his own career went down with her. Now you might be wondering, why are we suddenly talking about a federal trial involving Blake Lively? The answer is simple. Something happened behind the scenes that forced the court to move fast. Originally, the case wasn't supposed to go to trial until early 2026. It had been delayed, rescheduled, and quietly kept out of the spotlight. But that all changed the moment sealed evidence was leaked to the media. Evidence that sparked enough concern to make a federal judge cancel the delay and demand an immediate start. What kind of information could possibly make a court hit the panic button? Well, according to people close to the court, the judge didn't act on his own. He was reportedly pushed by higher legal authorities, who claim the case now involved more than just Blake's reputation. Officials from the Justice Department and the U.S. Attorney's Office both stepped in, using words like national interest and criminal exposure. That's when things got serious. This wasn't just about defamation or celebrity gossip anymore. The court believed that something illegal may have taken place, something that needed urgent attention. If this case is no longer about fame, then what exactly are they trying to uncover? When reporters got hold of a recent court scheduling brief, they found something very strange. It turns out Blake Lively's legal team had already requested several private hearings, long before this leak even happened. These weren't standard meetings. These were sealed hearings, where the public and even some opposing lawyers are blocked from seeing what's being discussed. That's rare. It raised eyebrows because it showed that Blake's side knew there were sensitive things coming, and they were already preparing to keep parts of the case out of sight. Why was Blake's team trying to hide things even before the courtroom ever opened? To explain why that matters, let's break down what was supposed to happen next. Before any trial, there's something called a pre-trial evidentiary hearing. That's where both sides bring their evidence, and the judge decides what can and can't be shown in court. In this case, that hearing turned into chaos. The footage that caused this legal mess wasn't brought in by Blake's lawyers. It came from outside, from someone who wasn't supposed to have it, but shared it anyway. That fact alone changes the entire direction of the case. So if Blake's lawyers didn't submit the video, were they trying to keep it buried? But what really shocked everyone was what came next. The original witness list, names of people expected to testify, was edited. In fact, large parts were blacked out. That usually only happens when someone's identity needs to be protected, like a whistleblower or someone under threat. Journalists and legal experts noticed right away. Who were they hiding and why? Some believe it's someone very close to Blake, maybe even part of her team. The timing of the redactions suggests that whoever it is could change the outcome of the entire case. Could the person Blake trusted most be the one who's ready to turn against her? Once the case was pushed forward, things started moving fast. Witnesses were called early. Some even dropped out, saying they didn't feel safe testifying. Lawyers rushed to file new documents, and the judge tightened control over media access. It wasn't just a legal case anymore. It was beginning to look like a crisis. And all the while, Blake's lawyer, Matt Gabriel, stayed silent. That silence started to speak louder than anything he could have said out loud. What does it mean when the lead lawyer doesn't speak while the case around him is falling apart? The truth is, this trial isn't just about Blake Lively. It's about what powerful people can get away with when they think no one's watching. But now, the court is watching. The media is watching. And most importantly, someone behind the scenes has decided they're done staying quiet. The trial is no longer just about defamation or damage control. It's about whether the system was manipulated from the inside. And if someone really did cover this up, how far are they willing to go to stop the truth from coming out? It started like any other day in the courtroom. The prosecution stood up to introduce what they called a clarifying exhibit, a term most in the room expected to mean emails or calendar logs. Instead, the lights dimmed and a flat-screen monitor lit up. What followed stunned everyone, including Blake Lively's own legal team. The footage, timestamped just days before Blake's deposition, showed her meeting privately with none other than Justin Baldoni, the lead witness in the case. They weren't in a public place. They weren't surrounded by legal counsel. It was a closed-door setting. No official record, no observers. Why would Blake secretly meet with the very person she claimed to have no contact with? Just days earlier, Blake had testified under oath that she had not seen or communicated with Baldoni in over 6 months. That statement was meant to protect her from allegations of interfering with witnesses or shaping testimonies. But now, here she was on video, contradicting that timeline completely. As the footage played, the courtroom remained dead silent. People didn't even shift in their seats. You could see Matt Gabriel, Blake's lead attorney, sit up straight, then grab a notepad, then lean in to whisper something urgently to his second chair. A minute later, he stood and stepped aside, face pale, clearly rattled. What happens when even your own lawyer looks like he just found out you lied to him in real time? For anyone unfamiliar with courtroom rules, the implications here go far beyond embarrassment. What this footage suggests is witness tampering, a serious federal crime. It doesn't matter whether Blake was trying to influence Baldoni or just talking things through. When a person involved in a trial meets a key witness in secret, especially before formal testimony, it raises immediate red flags. If Blake's attorney knew about this meeting and didn't disclose it, he could now be implicated as well. And if he didn't know, then Blake kept critical information from her own defense, a catastrophic move in any trial. Could Blake's lies end up destroying not just her case, but her lawyer's entire career? Just when it seemed like the damage couldn't get worse, the prosecution dropped a second surprise. Another angle of the same meeting appeared on screen. This one was shot from a wider distance and showed a third person, an unidentified man, standing near the back of the room. He wasn't part of the restaurant staff or a passerby. He had a briefcase. He handed Blake a file, and according to digital time codes, he arrived with her and left with her. Speculation quickly erupted. Was he a member of Blake's legal team? Was he someone acting under instructions from her attorney? And if that man was a legal associate, was this meeting really a secret? Or was it planned all along? The courtroom broke for recess. Reporters flooded the hallways. Blake's fans online began to fracture into two camps, those in denial and those demanding accountability. Meanwhile, Gabriel looked like a man trying to figure out if he had just been publicly betrayed by his own client. Sources from inside the courthouse say he was pacing, shaking his head, and telling clerks, "That was not supposed to exist." If that's true, then Blake may have exposed her legal team to consequences they never saw coming. The phrase, blindsided in court, took on a whole new meaning that day. But this wasn't just a client lying under oath. This was something bigger and far more deliberate. Later that evening, another wave hit. This time, it wasn't from the court, but from an anonymous paralegal who sent documents to two major media outlets. These weren't random leaks. They were internal memos, emails, and planning notes between Matt Gabriel and Blake's publicist. The subject line of one memo read, "Reputation extinction scenarios, outline options." The emails showed a pattern of coordination. Blake's PR team was actively involved in shaping her legal narrative. They even suggested language to be used in her deposition to avoid triggers that might cause the court to flag new evidence. Why would a publicist be helping write legal testimony unless someone knew the truth was dangerous? It didn't stop there. Another leaked file revealed a meeting schedule that included both Gabriel and senior PR executives just 4 days before Blake gave her sworn statement. The meeting was marked as strategy dinner, no official records. Insiders now believe this off-record dinner was where they discussed how to carefully word Blake's answers without technically lying, while still dodging questions that could trigger the release of sealed footage or cross-examination. One line from the memo read, "Avoid naming Justin. Stick to unclear communication windows." Legal professionals reviewing these notes were stunned. At what point does spinning the truth become a plan to deceive the entire court? The leak ignited something even bigger. The prosecution filed a new motion within 24 hours of the documents going public. The charge? Conspiracy to mislead the court. In this context, it means there's evidence suggesting Blake and her legal team may have worked together, not just to defend her, but to actively shape false perceptions inside a federal trial. If proven, that accusation alone could be enough to disbar Gabriel. For Blake, it could mean new criminal charges on top of her ongoing civil case. Is this still a courtroom, or has it turned into the site of a slow-motion legal collapse? Legal commentators, media critics, and even veteran attorneys began weighing in. One CNN analyst put it bluntly, "This wasn't just bad legal advice. This was legal sabotage dressed up as media strategy." Another compared the situation to past celebrity scandals, except, in those cases, the PR spin didn't cross into potential obstruction of justice. But here the line appears to have been crossed, and maybe even erased. Everyone involved thought they could control the narrative, but once the camera started rolling inside that courtroom, the narrative began to control them. And now that the court knows what was really going on behind closed doors, how much worse can this get? Even more damning, prosecutors reportedly discovered that Gabriel had signed off on a document stating Blake had no recent or personal communication with Baldoni, less than 48 hours after the video of them together was filmed. Whether he knew it or not, his signature on that document may now be used against him. Blake's publicist has refused comment. Her legal team has gone silent. And Matt Gabriel has reportedly stopped returning calls from journalists, legal networks, and even his own firm. When the people paid to protect you stop speaking, what does that say about what they just learned? At this point, one thing is crystal clear. The original case is now buried under a growing pile of lies, manipulation, and courtroom shocks. What began as a defamation case has become a legal disaster, where multiple careers may collapse under the weight of a single lie. Worse still, we may not have seen the end of the footage. Court insiders suggest there are still unreleased clips, some possibly showing more meetings, more handlers, and more manipulation. If those tapes come out, the consequences won't just be reputational. They'll be legal, personal, and permanent. And if this is only the beginning, what else is waiting to surface next? The courtroom was already tense after the bombshell video footage aired, but no one expected what happened next. It was supposed to be a routine mid-trial recess, 15 minutes to regroup, refill coffee, and reset strategies. Instead, it became the moment everything fell apart. As lawyers, court staff, and observers stepped out into the hallway, Matt Gabriel, the man who had stood beside Blake Lively throughout this entire case, didn't return. Whispers quickly spread that he had left the building entirely, not to make a phone call, not to consult with co-counsel, but to walk out, for good. What would make a high-profile lawyer abandon his celebrity client in the middle of her own trial? We now know what triggered it. Just before the break, the prosecution cornered Gabriel during cross-questioning over document disclosures. They asked him point blank, "Did your client withhold evidence from you, or did you withhold it from us?" The courtroom went quiet. Gabriel hesitated. He stumbled through a vague answer and tried to shift the blame, but it didn't land. The judge ordered a recess before deciding whether Gabriel had violated court rules, but Gabriel didn't wait. He grabbed his file binder, muttered something to his assistant, and walked out without saying a word to Blake. If Gabriel had nothing to hide, why did he run? It didn't take long for the rest of the story to leak out. A legal clerk, who was stationed near the judge's chambers, later claimed they saw Gabriel in a heated argument with Blake just minutes after the recess began. The words he used were reportedly clear and cutting. "You set me up. You're toxic. I'm done." Witnesses say Blake looked stunned. Her response wasn't loud, but she was shaking, clutching her phone, trying to follow him as he stormed down the hallway. Whatever loyalty they had left between them ended in that hallway, not in court. What was so explosive that even Blake's own lawyer called her toxic and walked away? Gabriel's walkout left the courtroom and the country stunned. By the time court resumed, he was gone. When the judge asked if the defense was ready to proceed, Blake's second chair attorney simply responded, "Lead counsel is unavailable." The courtroom sat frozen in disbelief. Minutes later, Gabriel's formal withdrawal notice was delivered via email. In legal terms, he had resigned as her attorney of record, leaving Blake without legal representation in the middle of a trial. For the next 48 hours, she had no one speaking for her, no one filing motions, and no protection. When even your own lawyer abandons you in public, how do you survive what comes next? Eventually, the court assigned an emergency attorney to ensure Blake's basic rights were protected. But that wasn't the most shocking part. The real explosion came the following morning when the judge unsealed a document that Gabriel had submitted just before walking out. It was a personal affidavit, handwritten, initialed, and signed under oath. And it wasn't just a resignation letter. It was a legal statement that might now become the most damaging piece of evidence in the entire case. In it, Gabriel didn't just distance himself from Blake. He exposed her. So what exactly did he put in writing that made the court take immediate action? The affidavit opened with a bold claim. Blake Lively misled her own legal team. Gabriel stated clearly that he was unaware of her private meeting with Justin Baldoni, and that she had intentionally omitted that detail when preparing for her deposition. He added that multiple members of her media and PR team had intervened during case preparation, pushing him to steer testimony in a direction that would protect Blake's public image, even if it meant hiding uncomfortable truths. He said he felt boxed in, professionally compromised, and ethically cornered. If Blake was lying to the court and her own attorney, was anyone ever told the truth at all? Further into the affidavit, Gabriel revealed something even more serious. He alleged that Blake's team had submitted what he now believed to be fabricated timeline memos, documents that were meant to prove her innocence, but contained altered dates and omissions. He said those documents were sent to him already finalized, and that he only learned of their inaccuracy after the video evidence aired. "Had I known," he wrote, "I would have withdrawn from the case weeks earlier." He admitted to relying on her team's materials in good faith, and now feared those materials were doctored. How deep does the deception go when the evidence itself has been rewritten? In one of the affidavit's final paragraphs, Gabriel delivered a line that echoed through every media outlet within hours. "I can no longer ethically represent a client who weaponizes the truth." Legal commentators were floored. It's rare for a lawyer to speak that bluntly about a client, especially while they're still under active trial. But Gabriel clearly wanted it on record. He was not going down with Blake. He was stepping away not because he was afraid of losing, but because he was unwilling to be complicit in what he called systemic dishonesty. If Blake weaponized the truth, what's left for her to use in her own defense? The legal consequences of Gabriel's affidavit could be devastating. His statement laid the groundwork for two very serious charges: perjury and obstruction of justice. Perjury refers to lying under oath, which Blake is now suspected of doing multiple times during her deposition. Obstruction of justice covers acts that interfere with the legal process, like hiding evidence or coaching witnesses. If Blake is formally charged with either, she could face jail time. And this is no longer just speculation. The affidavit gives prosecutors enough to start building a criminal case. If her own lawyer just handed the prosecution everything they needed, how does she come back from this? Reporters tried to contact Gabriel after the affidavit was made public. He refused interviews. His office released a brief statement confirming his resignation and citing ethical boundaries crossed without consent. No further comment was offered. Meanwhile, Blake's PR team went into lockdown. No press appearances, no statements, no Instagram posts. The silence was louder than any denial they could have issued. And to the court and the public, that silence began to look like guilt. When even your own silence starts speaking for you, is it already too late to explain? At this point, the court isn't just dealing with a celebrity lawsuit. It's facing a full-blown crisis of trust. A legal team has fractured. A client has been exposed by her own lawyer. And now the court is sitting on evidence, some sealed, some leaked, that suggests this entire case may have been built on carefully managed lies. And if even part of Gabriel's affidavit is proven true, the fallout won't stop at Blake Lively. It could implicate her team, her associates, and even her publicists in one of the most aggressive courtroom manipulations in recent memory. And if the people who built your defense now become the ones tearing it down, what story is left to tell? When Justin Baldoni walked into the courtroom, no one quite knew what to expect. Until this point, he had been a key witness mentioned in filings, but his public appearances were limited, and his personal connection to Blake Lively had been kept vague. That all changed the moment he was sworn in. His testimony wasn't just emotional, it was devastating. Within minutes, he made one thing clear. He hadn't come to protect anyone. He had come to speak the truth. And that truth? It may have just destroyed Blake's last chance at walking free. Baldoni began by telling the court something no one had previously heard on record. He claimed that Blake personally contacted him weeks before the trial and begged him not to testify. According to Baldoni, she didn't just ask him to keep quiet. She allegedly offered him a private settlement if he agreed to stay off the record. This wasn't a legal offer. This was a quiet message behind the scenes, made with no lawyers involved. Baldoni told the judge, it was her and her alone. She didn't want my version of events to ever be heard. Why would Blake Lively offer a secret settlement if she had nothing to hide? Then came the part that silenced the entire courtroom. Baldoni revealed that after refusing Blake's request, he started receiving threatening text messages from an unknown number. The messages warned him to protect the brand and think about his family before making a mistake. At first, he ignored them, but after the third message referenced his children by name, he contacted authorities. A forensic analysis later confirmed the messages came from a burner phone, one that was later traced to a device registered under a shell company tied to Blake's PR firm. If this was a coordinated effort to intimidate him, how many more people were threatened to stay quiet? The emotional weight of Baldoni's testimony was impossible to ignore. He described sleepless nights, security cameras installed in his home, and the emotional toll it took on his wife and children. At one point, his voice cracked as he said, "No one should have to choose between the truth and their family's safety." The courtroom sat frozen. Even the judge paused the proceedings for a moment to let the tension settle. Baldoni didn't look angry. He looked exhausted, like someone who had carried this burden for too long and had finally decided to let it out. And if he had stayed silent, how many lies would have been left untouched? As expected, the public reaction was immediate and explosive. Headlines flooded every news outlet within hours. From Gossip Girl to gaslighting lawyers, social media turned into a war zone. Supporters of Blake were suddenly quiet. Neutral fans began demanding answers. And critics, especially those who had questioned her version of events from the start, felt vindicated. In less than a day, Blake went from a misunderstood celebrity under fire to someone facing allegations of witness intimidation and ethical manipulation. But just when Blake thought she had reached rock bottom, the judge made a move that proved otherwise. In an unusual and serious decision, the judge ordered an immediate forensic review of Blake's phone records. That step is usually reserved for criminal trials, not civil ones. It showed just how seriously the court was now taking these accusations. Prosecutors confirmed they would be looking into messages, call logs, and deleted content, anything that could tie Blake or her team to the burner phone used to threaten Baldoni. With this move, the court made one thing clear: no amount of celebrity status could shield someone from legal accountability. And as those records are being reviewed, what else might surface that Blake never expected to face? By the next morning, Blake arrived at court with someone new sitting beside her. Her emergency lawyer was gone. In their place was one of the most feared crisis litigators in the country, Victoria Chen. Known for handling high-profile clients in free fall, Chen had built her career on doing one thing: damage control. But what no one expected was her first request to the court. Before any new witness could be called, Chen stood up and asked the judge for something that shocked everyone: a partial immunity deal for Blake. If your new lawyer's first move is to ask for immunity, what does that say about what's coming next? The courtroom murmurs turned into stunned silence. Immunity deals are not requested lightly. They are legal lifelines used when a client is at serious risk of being charged criminally and might be willing to cooperate in exchange for protection. The judge, visibly surprised, asked Chen to clarify. She responded that her client was prepared to correct the record, but would need protections to do so fully and honestly. That single line told everyone in the room what they needed to know. Blake's new legal strategy was no longer about defense. It was about survival. If Blake is now negotiating with the court, who else might she be ready to expose? As if that weren't enough, Chen followed the request by making a public statement to the court about Blake's mental health crisis. She claimed her client had been emotionally overwhelmed, manipulated by external pressures, and unable to make sound legal decisions during key moments in the case. It was a bold move, clearly aimed at softening the court's view of Blake. Some saw it as a genuine attempt at explanation. Others saw it as a last-ditch PR stunt designed to protect a crumbling image. But either way, the shift was clear. Is Blake finally telling the truth, or just rewriting the story again to stay out of prison? Then came the second bombshell, in a veiled attack that didn't name names but made the message unmistakably clear. Victoria Chen implied that Matt Gabriel had failed Blake from the beginning. She told the court that previous counsel lacked objectivity, neutrality, and may have acted based on personal rather than legal motivations. That subtle line opened the door for a new courtroom fight, a war of affidavits where Gabriel's damning statements could now be challenged. Chen was signaling that Blake might even turn against her own former lawyer to save herself. If Blake's new plan is to throw Gabriel under the bus, how long until he throws back even harder? Now, Blake Lively finds herself in a situation no Hollywood script could clean up. She is still fighting multiple civil suits. She is now at the center of a potential criminal case. Her past legal team is crumbling behind her. Her new lawyer is already negotiating for partial immunity, and the court is deep into reviewing evidence that could tie her to threats, lies, and tampered timelines. What began as a media controversy is now a high-stakes legal thriller with real consequences. And if Blake Lively thinks the worst is over, she might want to check what's coming up on the witness list.